Hi, hello, and welcome to another edition of ACC Baseball, etc. That's a George Grand thing. It just occurred to me. You know George Grand.
I know George Grand very well. Yeah,
longtime TV guy for the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
Did you do games with him? You did some stuff with them? Maybe right after your playing career?
I did do stuff with the Reds for a couple years, but he was already kind of on his way out. So he would like sub in every now and then, but he was mainly just TV. So I wouldn't have had a chance to work with him because all the stuff I did with the Reds was either radio or pre and post game.
Right. Okay. So, that makes sense. Makes sense.
But
great
listen,
dude.
George Grand there's nobody in the world nicer than George Grand. And he doesn't forget anybody's name.
No.
If we did a Hall of Name with George Grand, dude, you could name anybody that's ever played baseball and he would have a story about him. I'm telling you. Yeah.
I actually, so with my role with USA Baseball, we used to do a weekly or twice a month, every 2 weeks podcast with them. And he's on the board of directors or something like that at USA Baseball. And it's the reason he's the guy who is there to announce the Golden Spikes Award every year is his affiliation with the organization, because Golden Spikes is a USA Baseball thing,
right?
At least in part.
Yeah.
So we had him on. He was in town, and I sat down with him to do the podcast interview. And it's exactly what you're saying. I just looked up an old list of former teammates, and because he played and obviously had a long career as a broadcaster. And I felt like I would just name people, and he'd go off on a story. You're just winding up the toy, and he's going to go.
You think I have an uncanny memory for stories? It's not even a tenth of George Grand. We should have him on here one day after the season's over.
That is a great summertime get,
As part of our etc.
Yeah. So to be clear, we've had conversations off air, Danny and I have, about what we're going to do with the show once college baseball ends. And we are going to exercise the etc. in our name quite a bit. So just be prepared for that as listeners. It'll be a lot of fun. It won't be as frequent. I don't think we'll do weekly shows, but
we'll just see how it goes.
That's the great thing about what we're doing here is we can do just whatever we want.
Right.
If it's a random Sunday in July and we get to texting and want to hop on here and do something, sure, we will. So that should be a lot of fun. George Grand is a great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea. He did the very first Sports Center.
Yep.
He anchored it back in 1979, which of course at that point it was not what it was in the 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah.
And certainly not what it actually might be a little bit closer to what it is now. But I mean, that dude's an icon, broadcasting icon. So.
Yeah. When I go to the studio up in Bristol, there's pictures of him all down the halls, like him and Berman, and like he's a legend, man.
Yeah, I think it was him and Bob Lee on the first episode.
Well, Bob Lee's in some pictures with him, so it may have been. Yeah,
they're like two of the original ESPN Sports Center guys. Anyway, that's a tangent. A little pre-show Hall of Name. For you there with George Grand.
Right.
All right. So big week for ACC baseball, right? We got Wake Forest, the new number one to talk about.
Finally.
Finally. I know you've been stumping it for it
weeks.
Feels like all season long. You've said they are hands down the best team in the country. So they, it took a series loss for LSU. They Auburn got a couple from them over the weekend. So Wake Forest eked out that game 3 against Boston College. Bird ball made it interesting.
But bird ball did well. That's what bird ball does.
Yeah,
right. I mean, that's why they've been so good. They do that all year. They score a ton of their runs late in the game like that.
Yeah,
and it's scary. But you mentioned LSU losing to Auburn the series. They also got run ruled. Daron, how does the number one team in the country get run ruled? by an unranked team. And I know the game of baseball is crazy because anybody can beat anybody on any given day, but run ruled? Come on.
I
Shouldn't
get
happen.
it. I get it. Well, I mean, imagine a team with that offense not being within 10 runs of someone.
Right.
Right. You get Dylan Cruz, you got Tommy White,
yeah.
Countless others.
And that's the difference between Wake Forest and LSU, in my opinion. Like, even if you just say, okay, Dylan Cruz and Tommy White, great, they're unbelievable. But then you go to Wake Forest, well, Nick Kurtz and Brock Wilken are unbelievable. But then you got some other guys, Tommy Hawk. Anyways, go up and down the list. But the pitching staff, Wake Forest's pitching staff, the team ERA is a whole 2 points lower than LSU's team ERA. So, and you can say that we play SEC teams, we play ACC teams. It's still 2 points it's a huge difference. That's not like just a couple extra here and there. 2-run difference in overall team ERA is big, and that's why Wake Forest is so good.
Yeah. So speaking of which, I'm going to catch up with Tom Walter, head coach of the #1 team in the country, here in just a bit. Danny's got to split your son's birthday.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have prior arrangements. And I can't get out of this because then I'd be the worst person ever if I did. But yeah, my son turns 8 today. And
nice.
So as soon as we get done here, we were asked to go to lunch. The parents could go to lunch occasionally. So we go, and we're bringing these Bundt cakes. Have you ever had a Bundt cake?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we always order extra because the kids cannot have them all. I need some. So anyways, we got to go pick up the Bundt cakes, take them to lunch and hang out for a little bit. And then we're going bowling after school. So with the neighbors,
nice.
He's like best friends with the neighbors here. And so it's just going to be us and them, and we're going to go and have a good old time. But I'm going to miss out on you and Tom Walter talking.
That's all right. You'll be able to listen.
I will.
Because I know you're subscribed wherever you listen to podcasts, as those listening should
everywhere.
Be.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Yeah. Okay. Before we get to more baseball, are you a good bowler? Is that something that you do often, or no?
Well, no, I would say that I'm not a good bowler, but I can bowl a 180 and I can bowl an 80. So it just depends. Like it's almost like golf. If I start off great, I'm going to continue to concentrate and I'm going to have a good day. But if my first couple holes are bad, I turn into, well, let's just have a good time. Let's just have fun.
Well,
so it's like bowling. Yeah. If I miss a spare or if I don't get a couple strikes early, it's like, all right, let's just see if I can spin it right.
Golf is a good comparison because I feel like not many people bowl often enough to truly be good.
Right.
But you'll have a good turn and it gets you thinking like, man, I wish I did this more. Then I'd be really good. I could get consistent and be really good.
It's that one shot in golf that just brings you back. And I'm like, dude, I can't wait to do it again.
I was just curious. I don't know why, but you struck me as maybe the type of person who had like a bowling phase in your life.
Well, when I was 12, I was in a bowling league.
Okay. All right. That counts. That counts.
Just for 1 year. Yeah. Maybe 11 or 12. Yeah. We were in a bowling league and it was fun. Nice. We loved it. Man, but I mean, it's a fun game.
Yeah. I think it's strictly like, for me, it is very much not about doing well, totally social, Like,
yeah.
And it's so infrequent for me that, I went one time, I remember this is when it's been years ago. I was in undergrad and had my shoulder surgery. I tore my labrum playing baseball. And I went with some friends for a birthday thing and I was in a sling. But we were going bowling. I was like, you know what? I think I can maybe do it left-handed.
Oh, man.
I think I can do it left-handed. Bowled a 90. Not like respectable. Really? Left-handed.
Nice.
Respectable, I think.
See, if I do it left-handed, I would need the bumpers up. Yeah. But right-handed, I'm good. I'm decent right-handed. I can get it down there.
Sometimes the bumpers, that's more fun anyway. That's the move, You try
I mean,
trick shots. How many times can you hit each wall and still get however many pins?
Yeah. But see, the problem with that, Daron, like you get to go with your friends. So I have to go with my kids. So if we start bouncing them back and forth, then it's just teaching the kids bouncing back and forth. So need to lead by example.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right. To the baseball. Back to the baseball. Wake Forest, new number 1, Tom Walter on here shortly. I've got a couple more that I want to look at here. Clemson's on a tear.
Yeah.
They got a sweep. NC State at Notre Dame, Danny, won its first road ACC series of the season.
Doesn't sound right.
It doesn't. And it's like when we had Runes on, and he said, at the time they had only won 2 ACC series on the season. They were like 2-5 or 2-7 in ACC series. To be what they are and have the guys that they do performing the way that they are, it's just like something's just not happening for them on certain occasions. But so they needed this one because they had been downgraded to outside looking in.
Yeah.
They're in their bubble spot. And even that's kind of bananas to me. I mean, they're over 30 wins now. Their RPI as of today, as we're recording this on Wednesday, is number 20 in the country. But I want to ask you specifically about Sam Highfill. We talked at the beginning of the season about Elliott Avent moving him to the bullpen to sort of take a little bit of the wear and tear load off of him.
Right.
Well, now that he's right and they like what they see, he's getting Sunday starts for them. And he shoved against Notre Dame on Sunday, just his second start of the season. I'm going to see him on Saturday. I've got North Carolina, NC State, games 1 and 3. Mike Monaco, Gabby Sanchez, I think, have the middle game on ACCN.
Okay.
But I'm curious your thoughts on Highfill so far, because he looks like the Highfill of old, which we haven't seen in a while. I mean, it might be 2 years since I saw him start.
Right. Well, this makes me wonder if, I know that wasn't planned this way, but it almost looks like this was the way that Elliott Avent wanted it to go. So have him go into bullpen for a little bit and build his arm up and build his mentality back up, because he had that time off with the injuries. The back was killing him a lot last year. So, and this is just like, I'm just storytelling right now. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying this is what it sounds like could have happened. So we get him feeling good about himself again, being able to go out and throw multiple days, in a series, and give him some bullpen action and get him some saves or whatever, some appearances, and then starts to get feeling really good, right? And now Dominic Fritton, who was in the rotation, wasn't feeling really good and wasn't doing excellent or doing that great. So now they kind of flip-flop him. Well, Dominic Fritton is dominating out of the bullpen. He threw 4 shutout the other day after Sam Highfill, and now Sam Highfill is throwing better than he ever was before as a starter. And I know it's just 2 games, small sample size, but so now it's like he saved all his bullets throughout the season, and now he's got his, he's all loaded back up and ready to go and ready to dominate. It almost seems like this is was a great plan if it was a plan, I know it wasn't,
and when you take into account Fritton, a true freshman, we run into this issue a lot, and we talked with Chris Pollard of Duke about it because he's got so many young arms in his pitching staff. They haven't played seasons this long,
right? Until
now,
right?
So with Fritton, it's almost smart as well. Like, okay, let's get him while he's at his best, first 20, 30 games through the season. Okay. And then reevaluate. And obviously there was something there mentally that kept him from thinking he could go longer and could be as effective in starts, or I don't know if that's, I'm speaking for Dom's mentality. It was the team's at least.
Right.
And then you move him to the bullpen and he's kind of refreshed for this the second half of the longest season of his life.
Right.
So you do that swap,
and
it's like, they're still both high leverage guys, just in different ways.
Yeah. The high leverage for Fritton now isn't where you need to get off to a good start so your team stays in this game.
Yeah.
It's the leverage is I'm going to pitch good so that we can win this game. It's not like, it's a different kind of pressure. And now that he's in this role, not saying he's going to be a bullpen guy the rest of his career, but he's been able to like flourish.
Yeah.
And that just enables Sam Highfill to go back to his natural thing of starting, and I know it's not official that he's starting, but it's pretty.
Yeah. He's, and again, we talked to Avent this morning, right before you and I hopped on to record, and he said
he's starting,
going to go game 3 on Saturday. So that's what it is now. And for a team that has struggled in 3-game series all season long, all of the sudden, Danny, I like the way this team looks in a 3-game set with Highfill on Sunday. So assuming they make it, and they did themselves a lot of good with the series win at Notre Dame,
right?
Assuming they make it in, dude, do not let NC State get through a regional.
Right.
That's bad news. Bad news if you're the team opposite them in a super.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, and this is you get Sam Highfill back to the Sam that he was his freshman year, but now more experienced this late in the season and this fresh. I mean, it's dangerous. And he's the guy that is going to, like, if you're 1-1 going into game 3, well, your game 3 starter better be on, because Sam Highfield's going to shove it. Well, that's what he did with Notre Dame.
And he's done it before. It's what he did, if you recall, against number 1 Arkansas. He was the guy that finished that one out at Arkansas and won the series and got NC State to Omaha. So,
well, and he was the guy that we all was hoping that could have pitched against Vandy that day. Instead, he had to play first base.
And got two knocks on Kumar Rocker.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's exciting for NC State, and I know we've probably said it here. I've said it on other shows that there's certain teams in the ACC, when they're good, it just makes the ACC that much better. And NC State is one of them. And when we had Coach Bakich on, you said the same thing to him. ACC is better when Clemson's better.
Yeah.
And, there's a few teams that are like that, and NC State's one of them.
Yeah. Speaking of Clemson, man, a sweep of Louisville for them. And they're up to 14 in the RPI, 31-17 on the year, 17-7 in the non-conference. I told you when I got back from that trip, give it a year or two. But I mean, they're an even 8-8 against RPI top 25 teams. Like they just they might host, Danny.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah. So
their first
for them.
Yeah, they lost their first 3 ACC series, and then they've won 5 straight ACC series. I mean, they're a completely different team, and I feel like we're like part of their team, because we had that great conversation with Coach Leggett and Coach Bakich, and I feel like, not that we were responsible for their turning it around, but we learned a lot about this team from those 2 guys, and all of a sudden they're really good again.
Yeah,
I mean, you come on this show, then your team turns things around. Let's go, guys.
Well, actually, they are the only team until today with 2 representatives as guests for us, because our very first guest was Nick Kurtz, and then we'll have his coach Tom Walter. But that was sort of low-hanging fruit, right? Like we knew they were going to be good. We didn't do anything for Wake Forest,
right?
Maybe there's some mojo there regarding Clemson. We'll see. But
we knew Nicky Nukes was good too, but I mean, he's just hitting homers every seems like every game now. So he was a first guest on the show. I don't know. I mean, we knew he was going to hit some homers
in the midweek against UNC Greensboro.
Yeah,
he's just they're so good, man. Good on them for getting up to number 1 finally.
They're so good, and their relievers finally stunk it up one game last Saturday, but they still came back the next day and won that game. Like I don't know, man. Those relievers, they didn't give up much at all throughout the season. Between the three big relievers, Manasseh, Roland, and
Massey.
No, Keener.
Keener.
I know Keener. He's been like the swing man, but between those three, they've given up 12 runs all year long combined. And that night, Saturday night, they gave up 9 earned runs combined, which is bound to happen sooner or later. And thankfully for them, it happened now and not, come tournament time or Omaha time.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, just you got to credit BC. That's what they do. That's what they've done all year. Yep. Again, to make that as interesting as they did. Yeah. And they had a chance to win it late in game 3. Wake Forest gets a fielder's choice out at second that went to review that would have been the third and final out. But
why he went to second on that play? Why just throw it to first, please?
No idea. But we like to gas up Mike Gambino on this show. How great was it watching him as before they went to review that play? He went out to make sure they knew, hey, in case he didn't get the out at second, both of my guys in scoring position came around to score.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, if this goes to review and they didn't get him out, tie game. Like we did it. We caught up. But
right.
He was, and it wasn't likely. It was not likely that it was going to get overturned. They were just sort of doing their due diligence.
Yeah.
But Gambino was ahead of it anyway. I love it.
Yes. Well, I mean, technically that play shouldn't have been close because most runners aren't busting it down to second base and most runners aren't, with 2 outs, ground ball to short, the guy from second's not busting it to get to home either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a testament to bird ball, right? Hey, until the final out is made, we got to do something,
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
Despite them losing the series, to push it to a rubber match on Sunday and test Wake Forest late like they did.
Yeah.
I thought it was an overall just like they lost the series, but it was a little bit of a win of a weekend for BC.
Right. Right.
Remember our circle of parity.
Yeah.
Had they won, we would have a complete 14-team circle of parity as of this weekend. All we need is a series result from Georgia Tech Duke. So,
oh my gosh, that would have been insane.
And I've got game 1 of that one on Friday, Georgia Tech and Duke. So, I've got a fun little thing where I'm bouncing between series this week because the linear network's got the middle game in both of them. And I've got games 1 and 3 in both. So I go Thursday, NC State, UNC, Friday, Georgia Tech, Duke. Those are both game 1s.
Okay.
Saturday, game 3 of the North Carolina series. Sunday, game 3 of the Duke series. So
did you get an analyst for that yet?
TBD. TBD. I was trying to we'll pull back the curtain. That one's at the Durham Bulls Athletic Park. Which normally they do from the tower at Wallace Wade Stadium, Duke's football stadium. Just because if you've been to Durham Bulls Athletic Park, the setup is not, unless you have like a devoted truck to take there, production-wise, it's a little complicated to get it set up without just using what the Durham Bulls use for MILB TV. So a lot of the times, they will just sort of take those camera feeds to campus and you do a remote broadcast from up in the tower, which has turned out to be some like fun moments because I was up there one time last year and the football team was having Mike Elko's first spring inter-squad scrimmage while we were doing it. And so there's coaches in the next room and they're yelling and I'm having to get on talkback to the producer, be like, hey, Will, are you hearing this? Okay, good. Just in case I sound distracted at any point, just know that that's going on the wall next to me.
Just in case you hear me with a touchdown call.
Anyways, I was trying my best to get them to let you do the game remotely with me, since I technically would be doing it remotely anyways. I figured it would be easy. But again, Mother's Day, you've got plans. I imagine that's why they were sort of scrambling looking for an analyst. But one of these days we'll get a game.
We will. That's a tough day. I wish I could, Darren. I think it'd be awesome. I think we would have a great time. I agree. We'd even have to call Shuey and ask him to come and watch. But, because that would be some good TV. But Mother's Day, I can't get out of that, dude.
I get it. All right. So, anything else from the weekend that stands out to you?
Duke's humongous comeback against Longwood. They only played the one game. They were supposed to play a doubleheader against Longwood, but the weather was starting to get bad. And I know Duke lost to Ryder last night, 2-1. I don't know how the game went, but I saw the score.
Also a good Ryder team, 30+ wins on the year. So I mean, that's not going
to hurt them.
Not a typical midweek. It's not going to hurt them in the way that, say, Richmond would have NC State, and they canceled their midweek because the projection was that even if they beat Richmond, their RPI was going to go down by 5. So like, who can blame them for not? It was ruled a cancellation due to inclement weather, but we all sort of know what goes into that.
So what does Richmond get out of that? Like, they travel for nothing?
You mean, what do they get out of the game being canceled?
Yeah. Big hang with them? We'll put you on the schedule next year and we'll do this again.
Maybe there's some good faith stuff like that goes on, right? Like, hey, just have a more competitive team next year, and maybe we'll actually play that midweek.
I mean,
I don't know.
Listen, when you're a bubble team like NC State, it is what it is. Why are you going to play a game that doesn't matter if you win or lose and you go down in the rankings? Yeah. When that's what it's about at tournament time, selection time.
Yeah.
I get it.
I totally get it. And again, for an NC State, these last 2 conference series are the ones that are going to matter.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Duke's comeback, impressive, because I just was doing some score checking and was like, oh, Longwood, okay. It was not pretty early on for them, and they've dealt with some injuries too. Duke has now. I know we haven't really talked in depth about them in the past couple of weeks, but their star freshman hitter Andrew Fisher hurt his hand or his wrist. He's had it in a cast or a sling or a splint, I should say. Mm-hmm. So he's been out of their lineup, but back in comes MJ Metz, who started the year as their starting first baseman. And was one of the best on base guys in the country for the first 15 games or so. And he's come back into the lineup and been really good. So they moved Luke Storm over to third where Fisher was.
Right.
And Storm hit a bomb he's a switch hitter, hit a bomb from each side of the plate or both sides of the plate in the same inning the other day.
Well, and the second one happened to be a grand salami, which was unbelievable.
Yeah. That's at least the second time in his Duke career he has hit a home run from each side in the same game.
But never the same inning.
Because I remember one from last year. Either it was like a game that I watched because I had their next game, or maybe I called it. I don't remember. But I do remember one instance last year. But never the same inning. Obviously, that's a wild thing to accomplish. Duke continues to roll.
Well, and James Talon, their freshman closer, is better than most people think. I mean, not that people don't think he's good, but this guy is like phenomenal. We did a breakdown on him the other day, and I watched a lot of film on him. Man, this dude is filthy, and he doesn't throw overpowering.
I think that's it. He's not pumping 97 like Manasseh or Walters. So maybe he doesn't get the attention that those guys garner. And obviously he's new. So it's like, okay, we got to see it multiple years to be really all in on it.
Right. Well, and I think we are going to see it for multiple years. I did the breakdown I did. like I immediately, after watching a lot of film, I'm like, this is a young Randy Johnson, tall and lanky lefty. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the big unit, but like we put side by side, and they both, like, their deliveries, like coming up to his balance point, his leg coming up and then driving down towards the plate and then finishing. And then even Randy Johnson used to fall off to the third base side of the field after his delivery for a lot of his career. And that's what Talon does, like falls off to the right. And they both have that fiery attitude, you know.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it was eerily similar, these two. But I mean, he's really good. So deceptive. His fastball is deceptive, and he'll spin a little breaking ball occasionally. But I love Duke. I really like what they've been able to do.
The combo of having Fran O'Shell III lead into Talon, if they're close or leading late in a game, I mean, it's going to be very difficult to beat. So the key against them is don't let them get ahead.
Right. Well, I think Pollard has mastered how to use his pitching staff. Use the guys that, because he doesn't have like the starters that go 7 or 8 innings. He's got some guys going 4 innings, maybe 5 innings. It's, you might think 5 and dive, but you give me 4 or 5 innings and we'll go to the bullpen. And that's how it's worked. Like he's mixed and matched really well. And I love that.
And it's almost as if we talked about this with him a little bit when he was on. It's almost as if sort of the general morale improves when they hand it off to the bullpen. I mean, that is so rare that you get a starter out, even if it's like Ryan Higgins going a clean 4 innings.
Or
clean
which
5
innings. He has been lately.
Or like a clean 5 out of Andrew Healy, who's also been good for them. It's bizarre that you almost feel better when you get it to the bullpen and you're like, what do we have? 5 innings to go? Yeah, we got arms for that. Cool. Let's go. Here we go. Let's do it.
That's what my junior year at Miami, that's what our MO was. The starters go 5 or 6, and then Jay Tesmer, little sidearm reliever, would come in and set up and go 1 or 2 innings, then I'd finish. And us two at the back end, like he was a completely different pitcher than me. He was so nasty, like from down under, you couldn't see it. Like you couldn't see the ball. Then he'd like throw a little Frisbee breaking ball. So then it made me look better because I'm back over the top with some sink. So it's like, you got all different arm angles. I mean, it's a comfortable feeling when you have a bullpen like Duke does. Give him the ball, and game's over.
Yep, for sure. All right. That's good stuff. Let's get to Tom Walter, my conversation with him, and then you'll bounce back in and we'll play some Hall of Name and get out of here for the week. All right. Get you onto your Bundt cakes and your bowling.
Yeah. Birthday.
Joining me now on ACC Baseball, etc. He's in year 14 at Wake Forest. Okay. Right. I knew it was somewhere around that. Tom Walter, head coach of the #1 team in the country. Does that ring any certain way when I say that, or are you just worried about Florida State this weekend?
No, we're focused on the next one. It's one of those things where we were just talking about this actually. I mean, is there really a difference between 2 and 1? It's kind of splitting hairs, right? We're honored and thrilled to be mentioned in that category, but in May it doesn't mean a whole lot. In June, it starts to have more meaning, and then the later you get in June, the meaning increases and increases. So hopefully we can hold on to it for a little while.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you would agree in that, more importantly, there are other things happening for your program sort of on the way to this #1 ranking this week. I mean, you guys just set an attendance record at the Couch. From your vantage point, how do you describe this season as it pertains to the overall program's progression over your time there, and maybe starting with how you envisioned this sort of success playing out as you sort of plan, what's my tenure at Wake Forest going to be like? What do I want to make this and turn this program into?
Yeah. So, one of the things, Daron, an excellent question, by the way, but one of the things that we talked about, probably 8, 9 years ago was, how do we separate ourselves? Like, what's our competitive advantage? What can we do that nobody else can do? And we decided back then to really go all in on player development and build a world-class player development facility. And then really just as importantly, probably more importantly, is fill that facility with talented people who are good at developing. And so, that's when the pitching lab really kind of came into existence was, again, 2015, sitting down with Dr. Freehill, our team doctor back then, and talking about making Wake Forest kind of the epicenter of pitching knowledge and biomechanics. And, so we got to work and kind of put a blueprint together for what that pitching lab would look like, because, we felt like in the mid 2000s, 2015, 14, 13, 12, we felt like we were good enough offensively to compete at the national level, but we just never felt like we were really good enough on the mound. So, how do we move the needle on the mound? And we don't have as much scholarship money as some of the people. We have 11.7 like everybody else does, but we don't have the academic money and some of the other, grant money that schools have. So it's hard for us to compete, with a high cost of school. It's hard for us to compete with some of the other traditional powers to recruit those high-end arms. So A, we better develop pitching better, and B, we better be a destination place for pitchers who are serious about their craft. So again, the pitching lab really came to life, and over time, watching that come together and become what it is today has been really special.
Yeah, and it's something that, as you alluded to, is it makes your program stand out. How has even that evolved over the years? Because you can say you've got a pitching lab, but if you don't have the guys at the next level that you can point to and say, hey, we're all about player development, see, like, we can prove it. How does it get from one step to the next? Whereas now you guys, hey, we've got this guy who just debuted in the major leagues. We've got this guy who's the reigning ACC pitcher of the year, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So yeah, really great follow-up question. But the first part is, how do we make the data actionable? You have all this data. We've got a biomechanist on staff, and Kristen Nicholson is amazing, and she's just the best at what she does. We've got an epidemiologist in Garrett Bullock, who pitched here at Wake Forest, went to Oxford, pitched professionally. So, and then they've got grad assistants that they work with. So we've got this pitching lab coordinator and Mike McFerrin, and we've got the pitching coach and Corey Mascara. And how do we pull all those pieces together and make this information actionable? And, when we first opened this and, back in 2018, we didn't know what to do with the information. It was hard. It was all new. And Matt Hobbs was here at the time. And obviously he did an incredible job of kind of getting us pointed in the right direction. And then he left for the Arkansas job, and we had John Hendrickson here, and John helped us move the ball down the field a little further. And then we've got Corey Mascara and Mike McFerrin who have kind of taken it to the next level. And we've really added the analytics team to it as well. So that was one of the pieces that we were probably missing. We always had an analytics team, but we just didn't have enough collaboration between our folks and the analytics team to kind of pull out of it what we needed. So we've really kind of pulled both of those worlds together. We talk all the time about the 3 parts to pitching development. We talk about biomechanics, how you move, right? Then we talk about analytics, what's the ball doing? And then we talk about art of pitching. We talk about holding runners and being able to cross count your off-speed pitches and fielding your position, things like that. And what we've learned is you have to be good at all 3 of those things if you want to have an elite pitching staff. And our team of people that we have now have done a really good job, an exceptional job of pulling those different disciplines together.
Yeah, and I'm glad you phrased it that way with the 3 parts, the art of pitching, because I think to maybe a casual listener who's not quite in tune with all of this that has been infused into the game of baseball in recent years, they hear pitching laboratory, they hear make the data actionable, they hear biomechanics, and they probably, just based on those things, are inferring that Tom Walter is a robot. But I want to express that there is a human side to baseball, and you guys do that really well too. I mean, I don't have to. I think people who are familiar with your story know literally giving an organ to a former player is part of your story as a baseball coach. in the art of coaching, how do you allow these two things to coexist? Or allow is not the right word, but how do you make sure that they both can coexist? The making data actionable, it's very scientific in nature, but then also, again, you're dealing with human beings, and that all plays a part in the coaching process. Every decision you make, every whatever.
So we're very clear about what which they're working on when. So if they're inside, if they're indoors in the lab, you're working either on how you move or your ball data. You're working on biomechanics or analytics or both. But when you're outside, whether it's in the bullpen or on the game mound, either one, you're working on art of pitching. So we're very clear about what we're doing, where, and why. So, as soon as you hit outside, even if it's just a bullpen, Coach Moose has a stopwatch going and he's timing your leg kicks, and we're tracking your tempo, and we're tracking your holds, and we're rolling bunts out randomly that you have to get on the mound and go field. And and he's got guys sometimes yelling in the background trying to distract you. And he's doing all sorts of things to try to speed you up in those moments so that you can work on your art of pitching type things. But when we're inside, we're talking about how you move. What's your back foot? How's your back foot rotating? Are you getting enough force into the ground at foot strike? Where's your arm at separation? All those different things. So, and then the second part is analytics. What's the ball doing, and what changes can we make in your grip, or where you stand on the rubber, or how we capture your momentum, your stride length, in order to change your analytics and capitalize on what you do best. So again, there are times when we're indoors and we're super analytical and biomechanical. And then there are times when we're outdoors where it's, hey, you got to compete, and let's win this bullpen or win this scrimmage or whatever it is.
Yeah. Over the years, this is the last one on the pitching lab, and then we'll move on to some other fun stuff. How much does it vary from player to player in terms of who receives this information that you're getting them the best? How quickly do they sort of adapt to the game that they've always played, but now incorporating these things into the way they play? I would imagine, you've got a wide spectrum of some guys come in and they just sort of get it right away, and it's boom, boom, boom. They're very in tune with it, whereas others might take a bit to come along.
So when we first opened it, there were guys that wanted no part of any of it. They just tell me what drills I should do. Griffin Roberts was a perfect example. That Grip was a 42nd overall pick. And he just give me the ball. Just give me the ball. Let me do my thing. And if you got some drills I can work on, I certainly want to do those things, but I don't want to be thinking about my spin rate or my induced vertical break or, the shape of my breaking ball. Just tell me what to do, and I'm going to go do it. I'm going to go win. Right. And then you have other guys like Ryan Cusick, who was a first rounder. Ryan was super into the data. He wanted to know, as soon as his outing was over, he's pouring through the TrackMan report and looking at and analyze and understanding every single piece of it and owning that. So as things have progressed over time, there's nobody that wants nothing to do with it now, because it's in their face all the time. They see it on social media every day. So they're all educated on what it means and what it looks like. And they all understand how that can potentially help them not only win, but help their draft stock. So they're very in tune to kind of what the scouts look for, what the scouts think, and what professional baseball wants. So for us not to give them that, I think is shooting ourselves in the foot, because they need it, and we have to educate them on how to properly use it. So I would say now you've got guys like Rhett Lauder that are totally into their data. And then you've got guys like Sean Sullivan and Josh Hartle that are a little less into it, that they're still involved and they still understand it, but they're not kind of going through their each outing and kind of breaking it down to the level that somebody like Rhett Lauder does. So it's really just us understanding what they want and then kind of meeting them there.
Nice. Yeah. And that's perfect to sort of get the point across of the human side plus using all this information. So that's a good way to cap that. You joked that maybe there's not a difference between number 2 and number 1. You guys had been at number 2 basically all season. I think I was telling you about the genesis of this show, and Danny and I had an inkling that the league was going to be pretty good this year. You guys at the very top of that conversation. So you've had sort of the targets on your back all year. You've gotten everybody's best. we expected this team to be good. Has anything about what they've done surprised you from your vantage point?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm a little surprised we've pitched as well as we have. When you start the season, you lose a talent like Teddy McGraw for the season. A guy that could have went in the top 10 picks, like stuff wise, mega dude, like as good a stuff as anybody in the country. Period. Like I put him right there with Dolander, Skeens, Louder, Hunter Waldrop, all those guys, like right there, stuff wise. And then you lose your best left-handed bullpen piece, Crawford Wade, kind of right behind that. And those two guys are out for the season. So to say we would be leading the country in most every pitching category this deep into the season, having lost those two guys, that would have, I wouldn't have thought that would happen. But the emergence of Sean Sullivan, the emergence of Seth Keener, Michael Massey gotten better, Rhett Lauder continuing to get better, Josh Hartle taking the big jumps he's had, and then you got our, kind of the bullpen pieces, the Derek Crumbs and Joe Ariolas and Chase Walters of the world that are, kind of just doing their part, pitching in their little role on their branch and in their lane. We've put together a really good pitching staff here that we like. And, we've gone out each weekend and we've had injuries. We had Bennett Lee out for a month and we had Adam Cecere out for a month. We had Nick Kurtz out for 3 weeks. We had Jake Reinisch go down, our DH go down with a knee injury early in the year. So we've had our share of injuries along the way, but because of our pitching has been so good, we've been able to kind of stay the course and win series along the way.
Yeah, that might be part of the answer to my next question, Tom. We can talk about the pitching. We can talk about the home runs and the hitting. To pull back the scope, though, again, this is sort of from your bird's eye view of the group as a whole, as a collective. What do you think this team does best?
Well, we pitch best, for sure. And then right behind that is our defense and our hitting, kind of right behind that. There's not a huge drop off to our defense or our hitting. I mean, defensively, with Merrick Houston at short, the freshman, Justin Johnson, the grad school kid at second, Tommy Hawkins center, Bennett Lee behind the plate, we are really good up the middle. And that has not been a kind of a hallmark of Wake Forest teams in the past. And again, partly because we felt like we didn't pitch enough, where we always felt like, we needed to win 7-5. We didn't feel like we could win the 3-2 game because we felt like we didn't pitch quite well enough to do that. So when you're constructing a lineup thinking you have to win 7-5, it looks a little different, because you're making offensive decisions at third base. You're making an offensive decision at second base, two critical defensive. Sometimes you're making an offensive decision behind the plate. So point is you're taking some of your premium defensive positions and you're making offensive decisions with who's in the lineup because you feel like to win, you need to score 7 or 8 runs. Now, because we pitch so well, we can make defensive decisions. We can go with a guy that's a little lighter with the bat, but can really play defense. So it really changes how you construct the lineup and kind of how you look at each individual game.
Yeah. This will be the last sort of big picture one, and then I want to focus on some individuals. This is a team, again, number 1 in the country by now. I'm always curious as to a coach's philosophy, how much you talk about, not necessarily the rankings, but you set goals, obviously. How intently have you as a staff, as a program, referenced winning it all? Is that something that is like explicitly referred to on a regular or semi-regular basis? Because I know you guys, and it's the way you have to do it from a team perspective. You approach things day by day, right? And you piece it all together with the understanding that if you do that and you do that well, the other stuff's just going to come. But I am curious from your guys' perspective. It's sort of, you've been out in front of the ACC and most of the country, now all of the rest of the country for most of the year. Is that something that is talked about?
It is talked about, and we're super honest about it. When we reached number 1, I sent a Teamworks message out to the guys that basically said, hey, enjoy this. It doesn't come along very often, and you've earned it, and you've put our program in position where we have this acknowledgement of our success to date. However, now's the time to put your foot on the gas. Now's not the time to take your foot off the gas. Now's the time we've got to ramp things up and be more intentional. So, headed into the UNC Greensboro game, we came off a tough series versus BC. We had a tough loss on Saturday. BC came back on us twice, which really hadn't happened yet this year. And we needed to respond on Sunday, and we won another tight game. We won a tight game on Sunday. I was really proud of the way the guys responded. And, and then we've got UNCG here on a Tuesday. And that's a game where if you lose, you drop 6 points in the RPI, and it, it can be one of those, kind of season killers, and put you in question as to whether you're going to be a national seed or not. So how do you get your team off of a big series and then headed to another big series of Florida State on the back end? How do you get them up for the Tuesday game, against UNC Greensboro? And it's you address the elephant in the room. We're like, hey, you got to bring the energy. Hey, we're only guaranteed to play, 8 more games this year, plus the conference tournament, plus possibly an NCAA regional. That's our only guarantee. We're not guaranteed anything beyond that. So let's enjoy these moments together with each other. And, our guys have done a really good job of staying in the moment and kind of feeding off each other's energy.
Yeah. So, I'm glad to hear you answer it that way. Cause I honestly, Tom, I don't know how many coaches across the country are going to answer that the same way. And I think, again, it's a common response to be, we're tunnel vision day by day. If we can execute today, execute tomorrow, the next day, that sort of thing. But there's a very real aspect to accomplish what you ultimately want to accomplish. You kind of have to look forward a little bit while also keeping your feet grounded where you are. So I appreciate your answering it that way. You mentioned tough series against BC. Man, that was so entertaining. Mike Gambino has been with us a few weeks ago and really loved the job that he's done at BC. They are sort of emblematic of the ACC's success in a lot of ways, I think. I talked to Elliot Avent this morning because I've got North Carolina, NC State games this weekend. And he said the ACC is the best it's been in his 27 years in the league, top to bottom, depth, talent overall. He said it's the best year for the league that he has seen. How does that stack up with your view of the league through this point in the year?
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Every weekend you got your hands full. And I think part of that's the transfer portal. Our league is a destination for great transfers, and you had kids coming out of COVID with extra eligibility, and, any holes that teams had got filled, out of the portal. So you don't play anybody that has any weaknesses now. So, if you go out and you have a bad weekend and you don't play well, or if you have a starter knocked out of the box early, then you got a chance to lose a series. You can lose to anybody, anywhere, whether it's at home or on the road. And we see it every weekend. And you're seeing it in the SEC too. It's, it's the same thing there. Everybody in that league, we've seen it for years in our league. You've seen the number 7 team in our league seventh place team in our league go to Omaha. You've seen the 9th place team in the SEC win it all. Right. So it's like, one of those things where in our league and in their league, any one of the teams can catch fire and be really good at the end of the year. And on any weekend, you got your hands full. So I agree with Coach Avent on that. I mean, I think our league in Boston College, I think you're right, is symbolic of our league because they've got older guys. Their position players are really talented. They've got a couple grad school pitchers who really know how to pitch. They've got some power in their bullpen. So again, BC is just one of those teams. They're tough. Their season, they win at Tennessee, they sweep Chapel Hill on the road, so they get in those big moments and they don't back down from them. And that's the sign of a really good team because they're talented and they respond when they need to. And, part of that's the portal and part of that is just, they're battle tested, our league battle tests you.
Yeah. And again, I appreciate you answering that way because with the ranking that you guys have garnered, you've gotten everybody's best this year. So I don't know if there's a better person to answer that question about the ACC than you.
Well, and you see it in the midweeks too, Daron. It's like we go to Elon and they sell out the place, and it's a huge game for them, and they're throwing all their bullpen pieces at us because again, Elon's got a 33 RPI, and if they beat Wake Forest, it's going to go to 26. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those games. And same thing when you're playing UNC Wilmington or Coastal Carolina, or you've got these Tuesday games that's the game they have circled on their schedule.
Yeah.
So they're throwing all. App State was sold out. We went to App State. They've never had a sellout in Boone, ever before, and it's sold out for the Wake Forest game because we're having the year we're having. So we definitely got the mark on our back, and people are coming after us. And college baseball is better at those levels too. The mid majors are better than they've ever been before because of the portal. They're getting kids out of the portal too and filling their holes. So these teams are more complete. They don't have the weaknesses and the same thing with us. We added some pieces out of the portal. I don't know where we'd be without Sean Sullivan, Bennett Lee, Michael Massey. We certainly wouldn't be number one in the country without those guys. And Justin Johnson. I mean, the year he's having for us. So, again, the portal has helped teams, kind of fill those holes that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to fill.
Yeah. On to some individuals. We've mentioned Rhett Lauder several times. I mean, he's your ace. He is the best pitcher in the league. I saw him a couple of years ago. I was there at the couch calling the game with our friend Larry Sorensen, and it just happened to be Rhett Lauder's first career start. He had made one appearance, Coastal Carolina, his first career start. He gave up, I believe, a one earned run in 6 innings. And struck out 10, which is just one off of his career high now, Tom. So obviously there was something there. You knew you had something in this kid from Albemarle. What's different about him now versus then?
Well, first and foremost, his stuff has gotten better. Like his velocity has ticked up. The slider's a real pitch now. When he was a freshman in that game, you saw him, he was fastball changeup, the whole game. My guess is he threw 3 or 4 breaking balls and they weren't very good.
Right.
So he was a kind of a 2-pitch guy. But now, you think of Rhett Lauder's fastball now, he can throw the 2-seamer at you and that'll be 92, 93. He can run the 4-seamer at you that's up to 96. He can throw that to the top of the zone. So he's got 2 different fastballs he can use to both sides of the plate. So that's kind of 4 pitches. Then he's got the good slider that he can kind of put wherever he can lay it in there for a strike when he wants to. He can bury it for a punch out when he needs it. And then you've got the kind of that plus changeup that's always been his staple. So, now he's gone for a guy that's kind of 2 pitches with a fastball that's just okay, to 2 real fastballs, a real slider, and a real changeup. And the other thing is he's battle tested. You know what I mean? As a freshman, he got put into the conference rotation that next weekend, So as a freshman, he pitched at Louisville after we lost the first 2 games, and he gets us a win on the road at Louisville as a freshman on a Sunday. That's not easy to do. And he's pitching, at Carolina, and he's pitched, so he's gone out there in big situations and pitched big games for this team. He's pitched in an NCAA tournament for us and won a big game in the conference tournament for us. So, again, Rhett goes out there with somebody whose stuff has continued to get better and better, but he also makes big pitches in big situations. And that's why, he started 12 games for us, and the Deacs are 12-0 when he starts. Again, that might not last forever, and it might change this Friday at Florida State. But right now, the Deacs are 12-0 when Rhett Lauder's in the lineup.
Yeah. I'm going to ask about one more pitcher. We've mentioned several players. Your son Chase has pitched in the last 2 games, and I know you're very careful, I'm sure, about not showing favoritism. It's the classic dad coaches sort of thing. But I do want to ask, just sort of on a human level, Tom, you don't get this opportunity like if Tom Walter and Chase Walter were to live 100 separate lives, this might happen in 2 or 3 of them, that you get this opportunity to coach your son. Just what's that dynamic been like? What's it been like for you to have him along for this journey here?
Well, it's been really special. It's been incredible for me. I mean, it's the proudest dad moment I've had really in my life. I'm proud of both my kids. They're both amazing human beings. So I'm proud of the people they are and looking forward to see what they can become in the next phase of their life. But, having Chase on this team, a team that has accomplished what we've accomplished so far, has made it extra special. Now, when he pitches, my nerves are through the roof. It's I can't even describe how nervous I am when he pitches, and I'm just praying he doesn't give up a home run. But he's handled it really well. His work ethic is off the charts. His relationship with his teammates is second to none. It was funny when we were making the decision whether he was going to come here or go somewhere else. He was like, "Well, do I have to live at home?" And I was like, "Absolutely, you're not going to live at home, because that's not good for you or for me." Like the players don't need to think you're running back to me telling them things that they said, right? And vice versa. You need to be entrenched with them. They need to know that it's player coach. And I've got a quick funny story if you have a minute. But so early in the year, I'm standing behind him in the post-game food line, and he doesn't know I'm back there. And Pierce Bennett's in front of him, and we're both making a plate of food, and he's talking to Pierce Bennett. He's like, "Yeah, my dad comes down in the 8th inning of the game, and he's telling me when I'm going to go in and what hitter I'm going to face and what pitches I'm going to throw, and we're talking about the situation." And I'm saying to myself, I'm like, "You're my dad. You can talk to me like I'm your son. I'm your son. Like, talk to me like I'm your son. Don't talk to me like I'm a player. I'm your son." And he's telling Pierce Bennett this, and Pierce Bennett can see me, but Chase doesn't know I'm there. So Pierce Bennett's laughing, like he's smiling, and Chase thinks he's laughing because he's being funny. But Pierce is laughing because he knows I'm right behind Chase. So Chase is now taking the story, and he's like embellishing it, and he's running with it, and because he thinks he's getting a laugh out of his teammate. And then he turns around and he sees me, and he goes, "Oh, hi, Dad." So it was just kind of one of those funny moments that it was. I'm really glad that I've had this opportunity to be with him this season. It's meant the world to me.
Yeah, no, when it came across my news feed as, okay, he's going to transfer from Georgetown, it just struck me as something really cool. And then come to find out, you've got the team that you've got accomplishing what they're accomplishing, and he's a part of it. I'm just sure that's really, really special. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. You guys got a busy couple of weeks coming up. A couple more ACC series at Florida State, and then at the Couch hosting Virginia Tech to finish off with a midweek against a good UNC Wilmington team in between. So
on the road. We got 4 on the road, then 3 at home, and then it's postseason time. So hopefully we can, like I said, at this point we're just trying to stay in the top 8, right? That's all it is. Stay in the top 8.
That's it, Tom. All right. Well, Danny Graves, who is normally on here with me, sends his best. He wanted me to make sure that he's been stumping for you guys all year. He said there was a video of him on ACCN about a month ago going around, and he was like, no, forget LSU. Wake Forest is the best team in the country for reasons X, Y, and Z. So he just wanted me to make sure that we pile that on while we're on here with you. But
thanks to you and Danny for all you guys do for college baseball and for the ACC. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to do it. We love this league. I think I can speak for Danny. I don't like to in most instances, but I can speak for him and say that, the whole reason we're doing this is because the ACC is good and we love it, and we want to see it thrive. And you guys are doing way more for that than we are. So keep it going, and hopefully we'll see a lot more success in the conclusion of the season, and hopefully the actual conclusion is not for a long, long time, somewhere down midsummer. All right.
That works for me.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Thanks, Daron.
Okay. So that was Tom Walter, head coach of the now number 1 team in the country, Wake Forest Demon Deacons, the best team in the country, according to Danny Graves, for quite some time. Looking forward to seeing what comes of the last of their run. We'll see them in Durham at the ACC Baseball Championships. I applied for my credential and got it approved earlier today.
Nice.
So we'll look forward to that. Obviously, always a favorite event of mine. And are we doing a live version of the show that week?
We could try to do that. I don't know what my schedule is going to be yet, but once we find out, then we can figure something out.
We got to do some planning, even if it's not live per se. We're both going to be there. Like,
right.
We can
Well,
make this happen.
if Georgia Tech makes it, CC's going to be there too. Probably, he told me so.
Oh,
I mean, you never know.
One CC Sabathia as a special guest at the
maybe
potentially. Okay,
potentially, yeah.
All right, I got to start thinking about setup because that's different than what we're doing right now. You get your at home stuff. That's not coming with. So I got equipment. We can make this work.
Yeah,
on the run. That's good.
I can bring the camera. That's not hard. We'll figure it out.
Can you? Is that the sort of thing you can bring?
Yeah.
I can't see your setup obviously because it's the camera is looking outward.
Right.
So I don't know what it looks like. All right.
Yeah, I'll take a picture of it later.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, definitely can bring it.
All right. Well, we'll do some planning. Although I gotta drop this caveat in, and I'm not super excited to share this with you. There's a chance I've got some work at another conference tournament.
Okay, I don't want to hear it.
So we'll just leave. We'll put that on the back burner. Yeah. We'll put that on the. We'll put that on the back burner. If I happen to be somewhere else doing another conference tournament, then we can do it just this way, like we normally do. But there's no way we don't do an episode or episodes during the tournament. Come on,
right?
We can't.
Yeah,
we can't let that go by. All right.
I mean, so we could even piece some together. Do 30 minutes one day and 30 minutes another day, and
it might be like a daily recap situation. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good idea. Again, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
We got time. Air. Thanks again to Tom Walter for joining us. Now it's time to close out the show. So we bring in the righty, Danny Graves, to do so as he did for a long, long time. What song? You shared a song when we updated our logo.
Yeah.
It's
so
Audio Slave, right?
A lot of times when I'd come in the game, I didn't have, like, I would tell the PR guy what songs that I like, and in case they had a chance to play it. Because a lot of times they would say, I'd come into the ninth inning at home and they'd be like, and the official attendance for the Cincinnati Reds tonight was 3,721, whatever it was. So that was what they did during the ninth inning. But when they did have a chance to play some music, Audio Slave was one of the songs that I came into. Show Me How to Live. And that's what that was the music I put on with when we got our new logo.
Yeah.
From Kevin Roche.
Yeah. From Roche, the man. Kevdraws.com. Check his stuff out. Okay. So yours is an interesting one because I think when you get into the conversation of walk-up songs, obviously people think of certain batters.
Mm-hmm.
But you do think of closers, right? Because like Mo Rivera had Enter Sandman for all those years.
Trevor Hoffman had Hell's Bells.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I talked to Scott Brocious one time about Rivera. And if I'm not mistaken, that was totally not Rivera's choice. Like somebody else just played it for him one time and it stuck.
I could see that.
And it's just one of those funny things where apparently Rivera was like, yeah, sure, play whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it turned into this phenomenon.
Yeah. I can see that happening.
Okay. So it probably, to Reds fans especially, was like a big deal, whatever song you came out to. Was it Audio Slave all the time or were you not picky?
So the three main ones that I used when they were allowed to be used, Audio Slave, Evanescence, Bring Me to Life.
Okay. All right.
And Godsmack, I Stand Alone.
Ooh.
Yeah. Just the beginning of Godsmack's pretty legit.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously a lot goes into it, right? It's what does it sound like? And the energy that the sound has. But I Stand Alone's pretty good from a lyrical standpoint where it's like,
I'm out
it's
here.
Me.
Yeah.
It's on me now. This is my game. I'm gonna close it out.
Yeah. So that's the one I wish I would have only used my whole career. I think, if people were to ask what would your entrance song be, that would have been the one. Just because the title, but the music just builds up and just kind of makes you feel like you're invincible.
Yeah, I like that. Okay,
Yeah.
solid. We hadn't talked walk-up music, so that's fitting that we got that out of the way. So
Yeah.
we've played Godsmack. Enter Danny. We let him close out the show by giving a small look into his experiences as both a college and pro pitcher. Here's how it goes. I pick a former teammate of Danny's, and he has to tell us the first story, interaction, anecdote that comes to mind. So I'm gonna enlist the help of my trusty Google Doc here with not all of, but a lot of your former teammates.
I got to see this in person one day too, by the way.
Yeah. Well, in Durham, if we're both there again,
Yeah.
pending my work elsewhere, we can make that happen and maybe add to it. So I've got a list of collegiate national team teammates from 1993. I've got a list of Cleveland teammates. I've got a list of Reds teammates, and I've got a list of Mets teammates.
Yeah.
As well as a list of the University of Miami
Okay.
teammates. We're going to pull, I think this is our first name, if I'm not mistaken, that applies to two of these lists.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. All right. So he's first noted under collegiate national team.
Todd Walker.
Todd Walker is the name.
That's it, huh? That's it. Is that really what you were going to say?
Yeah. I was going to say Todd Walker because he was both a national team and Reds teammate, right?
Yeah. Todd Walker, dude. So he was one of the Poison concert members of the picture.
Okay.
Yeah. So he actually, if you recall, my sleeves were cut off.
Right.
So we bought these shirts at the concert, Poison, Cinderella, and Winger. And he chewed the sleeves off. He literally with his teeth pulled them off so that I could go sleeveless. Yeah. He's amazing. I don't know why that's the first thing that I thought of. But Todd Walker, he was probably the best collegiate hitter that I've ever seen in my life. And still to this day, he had the sweetest swing. Swing and miss or swing and hit a bomb. It was the same. It's almost like a Ken Griffey Jr. type swing. It's that pretty. And so when we played on the national team together, it was in 93 and they just won the College World Series that year. So he kind of joined us a little bit late. Him and Russ Johnson, another shortstop for LSU. Well, I was scared of Todd Walker. I'm like, this dude is the best hitter in the world.
Hold on. Now, when you say you were scared, do you mean you were intimidated by his presence?
Yeah.
Or you were scared to pitch to him?
No. His presence. This dude, I felt like this dude was the best ever to play college baseball. The numbers that he had at LSU, his freshman and sophomore year, well, even his junior year, but coming into this, it was just a sophomore. Absolutely ridiculous numbers. What he was able to do, and you're like, this is college baseball. This guy's so college baseball, and so I don't say I was scared of him. I just thought, man, this is almost starstruck, even though he wasn't a star yet. He was a star of college baseball, and then he turns out to be such a great dude and so down to earth and I don't know. He was just the coolest guy, one of the coolest guys to hang out with. He was kind of quiet on the national team, but then when we became teammates, oh boy, we both just kind of cut loose. We enjoyed hanging out together and having a few pops here and there. We golfed together. He's a really good golfer too.
Okay,
but just all around great dude and funny. He's hysterical, but if you don't know him, you would think he's just a quiet dude that doesn't want to talk to nobody. Yeah. But behind closed doors, man, he's hysterical. And I went for a long time without seeing him because after I retired, he played for a little bit longer. And then I didn't see him again until a couple years ago. We kept in touch, texting or calling, but then I saw him in Omaha because he works for SEC Network. So we ended up seeing each other there for the last couple of years, and just it's like we didn't miss a beat.
I am forever, when I think of Todd Walker now, or Todd Walker is mentioned, gonna imagine him chewing the sleeves off of your shirt.
Dude,
that's too good of an image.
Yeah. It was amazing. And he denies it. He's like, I don't remember doing that. I'm like, well, we don't remember a lot of that night, but I remember you chewing off my sleeves. And that's a fact. He did for sure.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Very good stuff. All right, so that's Hall of Name, Danny Graves. Excellent stuff.
And there's plenty more stories I can talk about Todd that we can't talk about on air.
Yeah, I'm sure. In Durham.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
assuming
That's right.
Assuming I'm there. I'll stay quiet. Last thing, we're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at ACCBSBETC. On each of those, you know the drill. Whatever the medium calls for, a like, a rate, a review, a subscription, whatever you do there would be greatly appreciated. We have a 5-star review to read.
Oh, nice.
This is coming from someone whose username is Mariners, but it's creative in that some of the letters are spelled with numbers. So it is M4 R1 N3 R5, but it it looks like Mariners.
That's cool. Yeah.
I would assume a Seattle fan. Speaking of Griff, who we've mentioned already, how about Jared Kelnick? Nobody I'm happier for to see like turn it on and finally get it to click.
I know it's so awesome that people were so down on him, thinking he's supposed to be a superstar, and he's showing them now. Like, the real.
To me anyway, was never a doubt. It was just a matter of time.
Dude, people just don't realize how hard it is to play Major League Baseball. Like, it's not easy. Like especially hitters. I mean, pitching is hard, obviously, but hitters have to adjust every single pitch.
Pitching is the most difficult thing, obviously.
Well, I'm just saying, like, hitters have to face different pitchers all the time. They have to face different kinds of pitchers and see all kinds of from all different arm angles. Pitchers, we have to know how to pitch to hitters, but we're still the same pitcher. They have to adjust more, and for some, it takes a little bit longer. But yeah. Baseball is hard.
Go figure.
Yeah. I mean,
all right. So the review from Mariners.
Yeah.
Loving the podcast. Keep it up. Thanks for sharing your awesome insight on ACC baseball. And a final note, go Wolfpack. There's got to be non-NC State fans that listen to this show. Like, that's 2 in a row. 2 in a row that are NC State baseball fans. We need some representation from the other fan bases. So if that's you, if that applies to you and you're listening or watching right now, leave a review. What are you doing? Come on. And put go Irish or go Yellow Jackets or Cardinals or whatever as the last line. We need to even this thing out.
Yeah, at least the Demon Deacons, who are #1 team in the nation, give us one of those.
Yeah. We know you exist. We know you exist, Deeks fans. Come on.
You know what? Maybe we should read the reviews at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Just in case, somebody gets tired of hearing my nonsense and they just say, okay,
they don't get to that part.
Yeah. We gotta go. We'll watch it later. And then all of a sudden they never watch it later.
I love that you're hedging for people getting bored.
Well, hey man, I've been told that I talk too much sometimes, so I get it.
But like my response to that every time is, some would argue I do that for a living. So
yeah,
if it's my job,
yeah, it's supposed to talk a lot, right?
It's my job. It's puts food on the table. So
that's right.
Not going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, me neither. I'm still going to be me, but
yeah. We'll stop temporarily though, because we've gone kind of long on this one, but good stuff as always. So find us on the socials, follow us there, leave reviews, get excited to see us potentially doing a live episode from the ACC baseball tournament in less than 2 weeks' time. Wow, that is coming up. That's
crazy.
Coming up fast. All right, so we bid thee adieu. We will see you next week. For Danny Graves, I'm Daron Vaught. Deuces.